Right. So today we're going to start with the auxiliary verbs, which I have already started yesterday. And I'll be taking you through the other auxiliary verbs, uh, whereas the primary verb do. So we have discussed yesterday, like be, have, do are the primary verbs. So if at all you look at, now let me tell you, the word auxiliary means something that provides supplementary or additional help and support, right? So if let us take do as a dummy auxiliary verb. Now, it is an dummy verb and it is only used in the context of forming negative sentences or questions. Like, for example, let me just give you, uh, see, if at all I have to frame questions because I don't see any auxiliary verb here in these examples, like Jinson Johnson won a gold medal at the Asian Games. Now, if you look at the verb, there is no auxiliary verb helping preceding this verb. Hence, then the next sentence, if you look at it, Saina and Sindhu train in the same academy, and there's no auxiliary verb here. PT Usha trains young runners in her academy. Here also, I do not see any auxiliary verb. Then, so if at all you do not find an auxiliary verb, then do can do, I mean, do can be used as an auxiliary verb here, as an verb here to make questions, right? So let us quickly have a look in the next slide. Like, for example, um, so if at all I am going to add, did Jinson Johnson, okay, win a gold medal at the Asian Games? So do Saina and Sindhu train in the same academy? Does PT Usha train young runners in her academy? So this is how do can be used, right? See, this is the example, did Jinson Johnson. So this is for yes or no questions. I can add do, and that is why it is called a dummy verb, okay? So did Jinson Johnson win a gold medal at the Asian Games? Do Saina and Sindhu train in the same academy? Does PT Usha train young runners in her academy? Hence, see, again, for the WH questions, I can use this do as a dummy this thing. So here I can, so look at the dummy role of do. What did Johnson Johnson win in the Asian Games? Where do Saina and Sindhu train? Who does PT Usha train in her academy? Right? So coming to the negative sentences. Now you will have a not between the do and the verb. Okay. So Jinson Johnson did not won a gold medal at the Asian Games. Saina and Sindhu do not train in the same academy. PT Usha does not train young runners in her academy, right? So the primary verbs in English grammar are the verbs be, have, and do, all three of which can function as either main verbs or auxiliary verbs. Primary verbs are sometimes referred to as primary auxiliaries. Now, for example, the verb to be has 8 forms. Am, is, are, was, were, be, being, and been. These words are called be verbs because they indicate a state of being. Right. Now, Margaret is a brilliant student. Okay. Now here, if you look at the be verb is, it's a lexical verb. As I told you, primary verbs, sometimes they use like, they occur as a main verbs or sometimes as a helping verbs. So if you look at it, Margaret is applying to Yale, is applying. Here it acts like an auxiliary verb. Now coming to have, here have, Frank has a good job. It acts like a lexical verb. Okay. And Frank has just returned from a business trip, and that's an auxiliary verb. Now coming to do. Okay. Sam does the crossword puzzle in the Sunday paper. That is again, the does is a lexical verb here. Whereas in the next sentence, doesn't acts like an auxiliary verb. She Sam doesn't go out much anymore, right? So primary verbs be and have do. Be is an auxiliary verb used in progressive sentences. I am taking a bath. Am. Okay, it's in a progressive sentences. She is preparing dinner for us. They have been studying all night. Okay, and used be form again used in passive sentences. I was given a free meal. He was seen by fans at the airport. The song has been sung by all nations. Now, next coming to the do as an auxiliary verb in negative sentences. I do not know the truth. So there is a not which comes between the auxiliary and the verb, right? She doesn't agree with me. Again, does and not agree. Then they didn't here. You can see the not in a contracted form. They didn't arrive here yet. Used and also used in questions. Do you want to have another one? See, you can see the do, the verb do in form of a question. Did he finish his homework? Do we need to keep going straight? Have as an auxiliary verb. I have been following you for a mile, where this is used in perfect sentences. We have done a lot so far. She had been queen of the town. Right. Now, next we move on to the modal auxiliary verbs. Now, modal verbs as auxiliaries. Okay. Now, modal verbs like can, could, may, might, must, shall, should, will, and would are considered auxiliary verbs because they are always used with another verb to express possibility, ability, permission, necessity, or future tense, essentially helping the main verb to convey additional meaning. They are classified as modal auxiliaries. Another point, a very important point, modal auxiliary verbs are always, I mean, they occur as an helping verb. Unlike the primary verbs, they happen to be sometimes the main verbs or a helping verb for a main verb. Modal verbs are auxiliary verbs like can, should, and must that express conditions such as possibility, ability, necessity, and permission. Frequently used modal verbs include can, may, might, could, should, would, will, and must. Less common ones like shall and ought are still used in specific contexts. Modal verbs are followed by the main verbs infinitive. I mean, without to and remain consistent across subjects. In past contexts, forms like could, might, should, and